Cecilia Macaulay is a home harmoniser who helps you declutter, reset, and turn your physical home into an ecosystem that supports you. Her approach is especially suited to people who are navigating ADHD and nervous system dysregulation, who want to live a great life. She is a permaculture designer of great enthusiasm who has spent over 3 decades running workshops internationally. Cecilia's how-to guide for sharing home smoothly appears in David Holmgren's book Retrosuburbia. She's the author of the upcoming book How to Create Sacred Space Anywhere in Your Home and co-author of the Visual Language for Global Communication. Hello and welcome to the Permaculture Herbalism segment of the Elder Tree podcast. I am your host, Tennille Christensen from Earth Mama, where I teach people how to thrive and get skilled for sustainability. As an educator, kitchen witch, and plant lover, I welcome you to tune in as I interview permaculturalists from around the world. We will learn holistic ways of integrating plants into our homes, gardens, and communities for healing. Together, we will explore the art and science of this regenerative design system and harvest the collective wisdom. Permaculture offers a pathway to empower people to develop their lifestyles and landscapes. So let's discover how to grow and know plants with a purpose. Welcome, Cecilia. Thank you abundantly for joining me in this episode today.
It's a joy.
It's a joy. Okay, and that's our intention. Let's bring some joy to our experience here and also the listeners. So let's just jump straight through it. I'd love for you to share why permaculture is an important aspect of your life.
Oh, it's the lens through which I see life. I think I've been a permaculture designer since I was about 3. All I've wanted to do is fix things that are broken, make things beautiful that aren't yet, and be useful. I feel so safe when I'm useful to other people, and useful in a way that's unique. So I'm valued.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with my daughter about having the intention to be a producer rather than a consumer in a way that's, we're using the ethics of permaculture, but being someone who's doing creative things and useful and making the world a better place, not just being a consumer and taking in the information and what other people's creativity is, but contribute to that. So we have that sort of energy where we're giving back.
And there is a place for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. We all have something to offer, don't we?
It can get missed. And that's why I'm such a fan of permaculture houses where an ecosystem of different people can come and find what their unique creative contribution is, even if they thought they were just regular consumers. Oh, no. There's things that I need that they can do and they feel so wanted. So that might be part of our story today.
That would be wonderful. And you have 33 or 34 years of permaculture experience. So could you share where your journey first began, even though it started when you were 3 and you started doing design or whatever? But who did you study with and what prompted you to step into this journey of permaculture?
Well, I heard the word permaculture the first time in London when I was doing my year travel around the world by a beautiful inventor man. Oh, you're from Australia. What a wonderful country. It invented permaculture. And I fell in love with permaculture and with him, and with how I can have a life where I don't have to force or be forced, and my life can be beautiful. And ever since then, I've been finding out how to make that a reality. Getting so close.
Getting close after this time. The wisdom's brewing. And who did you study with? Did you study in the UK or back here in Australia?
So I studied with my everyday life. It's every problem I had was a chance to use permaculture. Every annoyance, what would Bill Mollison say? And I did sign up for a PDC in 98. I thought, I don't need a PDC, because I'd been traveling the world, woofing for great permaculturalists, reading everything. But still, that tiny 2 weeks was this transformational, transmuting, magical time. One of the best 2 weeks of my life. It was at Bill Mollison's property in Tyalgum, and with Bill's great acolyte, Jeff Lawton, who's my friend. I love Jeff. And Steve Cran. Steve is the unsung, like Badlands permaculture designer who just goes to the hardest places and with the charm of his personality makes things work with the toughest people. The Green Warrior, Steve Cran.
We've had the wonderful opportunity to have him here on this episode.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that. He just keeps such a low profile. He doesn't tell people how amazing he is. He's so unknown in permaculture.
Because he's out busy doing the thing.
Yes,
changing
that's
lives.
right. That's right.
In the depths of chaos. Yeah.
Lucky you.
Yeah. And so you did in 89, you did your PDC, and from there you've
that 98.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you've been applying it to your life, and in what ways has it manifested? Because I know permaculture is way beyond just what we're doing out in the garden. So is there...
So my special... my special interest is in home life and how diverse people can live under the one roof and really treasure each other and not annoy each other. And it's a design challenge. It's not there's good people and bad people and they're the idiots, we got to keep away from them. It's, do you have a really good design for your home? And I set out to make a good design. And a lot of it was in actually selecting the right people. I got really good at working out what's a good companion planting of humans. And a lot of it was the structure that was carefully planned before they came in. Like, this is a house where people wash the dishes, dry and put away straight after eating. Would you like to live in such a house? So how can I run a house without nagging, without punishment, where everyone is their best, without obvious prompts? So there are all these invisible prompts that I set up and they didn't know that they were there. And they just thought, wow, when I'm in this house, I'm such a great cook. I'm so creative. I'm so good at dinner parties. There was something behind that. And it was Bill and David and permaculture and Masanobu Fukuoka and all that wisdom I'd been absorbing.
I love that. The social aspects of permaculture, and I guess that's like really strong in the people care placement, and having the guild. Who's your guild? And your companion. I love that, what you said about the companion people, like the companion plants in the garden. It's a really... And setting up agreements. We're just going through this experience at the moment with starting a community on 60 acres, and all these invisible structures of decision making and agreements and how we live harmoniously together. That's all part of the design, like you said, from the very beginning.
It took a lot of iteration because conventional wisdom, like conventional agriculture, it doesn't work. It works if you, but it seems to work, but it's costly and it's going to let you down. Like, for example, you got to communicate. You just got to say what you think truthfully. If you just tell me once that I've let you down, I'm going to be scared of you forever when I see you in the hallways. I'm going to feel like a failure. So my background in Japan has been so useful in that I never, ever, ever say anything to people that's going to make them feel bad, and you don't need to. Sometimes I accidentally will if I'm really upset, but generally there's always a way to bring out the best in people without what's called direct communication that can just make people close down little by little. And I learned that
And
from permaculture. Yep.
yeah, okay. It sounds like non-violent communication in many ways. Can you give an example of that? Because you spent quite a bit of time in quite a long time in Japan. I understand you go back and forth from Australia.
Yes, the Japan that never says no. That's right. So I've been going almost every year ever since I became a grown-up. And I run permaculture workshops there in Japanese. It's so amazing. My Japanese gets stronger and weaker the longer I'm away from it, but we understand each other. And the Japanese culture is what enabled me to have houses with really wonderful people that just kept coming back to live with me and my household, because I, I they always felt so admired in my presence, because they were, and because their weak points, I'd find a way around them. Now, you asked for a specific example. Well, the dishes is one. I actually have experienced it in the early days, that dishwasher rage. It's like road rage that every share house person feels like, I put effort into washing the dishes. It was really, really hard, and I was really proud, and someone wrecked my beautiful clean sink and they don't care. And now I have to tell them, and I don't want to tell them. And I just wish I could go live in an apartment all by myself. No, I thought, if I can solve dishwasher rage, dirty dishes rage, I can change the world.
You can.
People
It's
can,
a daily
yeah,
occurrence in many households.
that's right. And I did. I came up with a 5-point plan that solves dishwasher rage, but only for new people coming into the house. If they're your children, it would be, I'll have a different method for children that I
Okay,
use on my
please,
clients.
please tell us. This is like
Ah! So the first one is, before they move in, I do what I mentioned before. You ask, don't tell. You don't say you have to clean the dishes, because that's like, who am I to tell them what to do with their life? It's, would you like to live in a house where dishes are washed, dried, and put away? And they decide, yes, that is who they are. Yes, I do want to be that, live in such a house, because that's who I am. So they've already tied it to their identity. I said, great. And then next, step 2 in the 5-step process, me, Cecilia, I have to make sure the sink is not just clean, but it's a shrine of beauty and love. I keep it peopled with guard flowers. So there's always freshly picked flowers in a vase to show this is a place of beauty, because it really is the heart of the home. It's where all your meals get made, and your meals are where your love gets made and your health gets made. So if your kitchen sink's not working, everything else is going to get in the downward spiral. So I shine it at night before I go to bed, so it smiles at everyone in the morning. Like, I get the bicarb soda and I make sure it's not just clean, it's smiling. And I make sure I don't put even one cup, not one buttery knife. And that's hard for me, because I am a naturally airy person who loves to start things and sally forth into the world with projects. And I'm never had much interest in finishing things. But Japan rehabilitated me. And just the fact that if I could make this sink work, I could make the whole house work, and then I could make the whole world work, that was motivation to wash that buttery knife or that breakfast cereal bowl. So that was step 2. And step 3 was, let them know if they're in a hurry, which happens, they could always ask another housemate to wash their dish. Or, here's a tray, I said, you can bring your dirty dishes into your bedroom and wash them when you get home. Now, of course, they're not going to, but they just let them know how really important it was. And it was a backup. And they just set the alarm a few minutes earlier. And then the final one, which really landed as a joke, I said, and because it's our office, it's my office, and I have clients here, and it's got to look beautiful. And I've promised everyone else in the house it will always be beautiful. If you decide that you don't have the energy to keep it clean, I've promised everyone that I will advertise the room of whoever leaves the dishes. And because you're so lovely, I'd probably choose you again, but I'll advertise the room. And it's just a joke, but it lets them know that there's no option.
Yep, this is a commitment. And
And
it's
I
so
just
much
say it
nicer when,
once. Hmm.
yeah, once, and then it's set. You've got the right
Yeah.
person aligning too. Yeah,
Hmm. So that
I
was a
like it.
miracle to have a life without dirty dishes. If it's not, if it's a guest and you can't do that hard line, um, I've got another way. I put a big chopping board over the sink, and I put a big like pot plant of roses or something on it. So the sink ceases to exist. There's just a garden, and you put the dish in the dishwasher. This is a teenage management strategy. You wipe the food into the bin and put the dish in the dishwasher. Because if you're a teenager, like, you just don't have that capacity to be self-disciplined, maybe. Or the teenagers of my declutter clients, the kids need extra help. And that's what we
Yeah,
give.
that makes sense. Yeah,
But
I love it.
there's,
Bring the garden in and give them an alternative. Yeah.
well, just, yeah, dumping it on the sink's not as easy. And
Yeah,
there's more to that. Getting
great.
getting the parents to declutter the pantry, so it's really obvious where the clean dishes go. There's space that the dishes kind of get vacuumed up into. It's just waiting for these dishes. So there's no clean dishes in the dishwasher. So often it's just that the whole system's stagnant. It's not ticking over.
Mm.
The key energy is not flowing. So the
Ah,
decluttering gets the key energy flowing, which leads to no dirty dishes on the sink, because you don't have a pantry, a cupboard full of mismatched crockery to the rafters.
yeah,
So when
that
there's
would be
space,
overwhelming, and they're not quite sure where it goes, and all of the story and experience that attaches to that initial dysfunction. I love that. I have
yeah,
teenagers in my house, and yeah, it's an ongoing coaching process. And I just think, how can we make this more simple?
yeah. And if you could do that without words, you will be my hero, and you can. And you can do it with design, and it is solving the problem beneath the problem beneath the problem. The problem isn't that they're lazy and they don't wash the dish. The problem is actually the the place in the cupboard's too full of stuff.
I love that. And so that's a wonderful example, and hopefully some tools that people can apply to their household.
Yay! Please
In
do.
the simplest, yeah.
Tell me
Um,
about it if you do and it works.
great.
Let me know. I'd
Yeah.
love to hear.
Well, all your links will be in the show notes, so people will be able to reach out and give you feedback about the five-step plan.
It will
Um,
warm my heart. I do this because I know you're out there struggling like I was, and to know that your life's better because of listening to me, I'll just be smiling so big.
like you are now. So,
Yeah.
winding that back a little bit, you mentioned that your kitchen is your place of work and you have clients come, and you talked about decluttering. So, can you explain to our listeners, because this might be a very new concept for them, about what that looks like? What are you doing in your kitchen with the decluttering workshops, and how is that permaculture?
Ah, yes. So, in all my travels around the world, 30 plus years, I found so many great, talented permaculturalists that have amazing, opulent gardens and bucket loads of fruit are not succeeding at the back end, the kitchen end. They're where the fruit is rotting and food is not getting made, and the fridge is full of expired food, and the kitchen table's full of mail and envelopes and dead things and library books. And often the most talented permaculturalists are the just don't have their kitchen ecosystem ticking over. And I thought, I can do something here. So I repurposed permaculture's zones and edge effect and diversity. So it's a playbook for how you can have a kitchen revolution, dining room revolution, and you do it once and then you know where everything goes. And I didn't expect this, but I turned out that I was like this hero for people with neurodiversity, ADHD. And the system I developed worked so well for them. And I started doing online webinars and, of course, in-person workshops that my Japanese friends would organize and some of my Aussie friends. And I'd insist on before and after photos, because everything we do as permaculturalists should work. You should have an obvious, successful outcome, because if you don't, how can you design to accept feedback?
Yeah.
So I ask for a before and after photo. And in a 3-hour webinar, we have before and after fridge, kitchen, and then I get a year after and it stays. Tonielle, a year later, they say, look, I've still got my zones and my reduce useless diversity, increase useful diversity. I kept it. They said, you should see my bedroom. It's still hell. I was hoping it would like expand, like the culture expands, as in like yogurt or kombucha, but sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Great. So,
Mm.
but do you find that you have clients that then apply that to all of the different rooms in their house?
Yes.
Yeah.
So some people are ready and they just hit the ground running, and all they need is a one fridge webinar and it expands out, because I teach the principles that apply to everything and everywhere.
Yeah.
And when I teach fridge or sink or bathroom or create a sacred space anywhere in your home, I give little hints that this applies to the garage or the bedroom. Do that later. But make one space and protect it. Keep it functioning and perfect as its own self-maintaining ecosystem. And then expand once you've got the psychological strength. Because when you make your fridge or bathroom or garden or whatever beautiful, you're also strengthening and beautifying your spirit. You're creating new neural pathways, just like you create swales, and the energy will flow along those new neural pathways and make everything flourish.
Yes. And there's that
Yeah.
saying of, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if we can really hone in and focus on that one project, be it the
Mm.
sink or the pantry or fridge, get that right, then we've got, like you said, the neural pathways or the motivation and empowerment to take it to the next. Our zone, you talked about zoning there. Our
Mm.
house is our zone 0 before we start, getting things right out in the garden. And sometimes it's a bit of, we choose where our focus is. But like you
Mm.
said, you can have a really beautiful garden and then be completely dysfunctional in your house and not applying any of the principles into that zone 0. And that's okay as well. But if you want to live in harmony and be comfortable in your house and not just be out in the garden enjoying that all the time, you can really lean into that challenge as an opportunity.
Mm. And some people, it's not the time in their life for harmonizing their home. Some people, they just want to focus on the garden. But if you can learn enough so that someone that wants to do the home wants to live with you, then you can delegate that to them. And as long as and they can move in, and you can have them as your housemate or your husband, or all sorts of things could happen. But you just need enough permaculture for inside your home to not wreck their system, and to be grateful for what they're doing. So you don't have to harmonize inside the home or the kitchen sink if your joy is the garden. You just have to know enough about it to let someone else do it.
And let them drive that project.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh, all right. Well, we just explored heaps and just in our very first question. So let's jump into the conversation of plants and how you integrate perhaps from a herbalism or using plants as medicine aspect in either your own home or in your garden or community.
Well, something I've got huge energy for is Japanese edible gardens. And in the share houses I've made, I've always planted Japanese edibles because it makes the house special. And making the house special is my currency. The reason people have the energy to wash that muesli bowl instead of dump it is because they really love living in my house, because there's no other house like it when I had it. At the moment, I'm between houses. The landlord took the last one back. These things happen. So I wouldn't plant just any old vegetable you could get from the supermarket or even the farmer's market. I went to Four Seasons Seeds, my favorite seed shop online, and I'd get all my favorite Japanese herbs: mitsuba, shiso, myoga, and I'd have a Japanese edible garden. Sometimes it would be in pots if the back garden was shady. Sometimes I'd plant them in the neighbour's house if I didn't have enough space, but they were mine. And I'd do guerrilla gardening when I was house sitting in Sydney in an opulent $5 million harbourside mansion with very shady gardens. I just planted asparagus and silver beet on the steps going down to the ferry. And I just harvest on my way home from wherever I was. No one minded.
I'm sure. Pick up tonight's meal on your way walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
Very much in the zone.
I was really lucky because when I was there in Sydney, David Holmgren and his partner Sue Dennett came and stayed with me. And they're the coolest people. They travel with pumpkins that they grew in their car. Yeah. And they said, all right, we're going to have some salad. Where can I go and get salad? And I said, well, there's none in the house, but there is like on the steps. And they went and they picked salad, and they went and came back the next day with a packet of seeds, and they planted seeds where they picked on the steps. They're so cool.
That's
Yes.
very reciprocal. Yeah.
So they see the world as their garden, and they take responsibility for everything. And they're entitled to this rocket growing where Cecilia planted it in public.
That is very inspiring.
Mm.
So would you, out of all of the different houses and gardens, guerrilla gardens, all of the plantings that you've done, do you have a favorite plant that you recommend?
In my Annandale house in inner city Sydney, 10 minutes from Central Station, we created paradise. And we had chickens and the Japanese herb garden. But the hero plant was not Japanese, it was Taiwanese. And it blessed our lives so much. So someone turned up and said, oh, it's a sweet potato from Taiwan. You eat the leaf. One of my woofers gave it to me. And I just put a cutting in the ground, and it just spread so happily in the semi-shade. The chickens would just leave it alone. All of us, all 6 people living there, would every day cut some of this plant, saute it in butter, and eat it. You had to eat it, cook it before eating.
Yep.
So the pests just weren't interested, maybe because they didn't have fry pans with butter. That we did. they left it alone. And the chickens left it alone mostly. And the best thing was everyone that visited, and we had so many visitors because that was another currency, cool people. So we're always having dinner parties and Airbnb guests. So I'd give them a cutting that they could take to their house. And so this humble little Taiwanese sweet potato, edible leaf potato, just was in all these homes throughout Sydney. And the sad thing is, it doesn't work in Melbourne, so I don't have any. But I do have a repository. I have all these friends in Sydney who can give me a slip whenever I want one. They're heart-shaped, they're delicious, they're very nutritious, and everyone should have edible sweet potato. And the tuber makes it very stable. So even if we forget to water it, it's self-reliant. So it's such a hero. It's so sociable. It's so strong. It's so tasty. That's my story.
That's a wonderful story, and I love perennial greens. So sweet potato leaves is something here in the tropics that grow abundantly in our garden. And yeah, it's always exciting to see that that's new information to people. I mean, that you can eat sweet potato leaves, that it's not just the tuber, and that
Mm,
goes for the yields of many of the plants. You can use them in different ways. So
mm.
I wonder what plant will come to you in Melbourne that is the hero that grows so easily and well and can be
Well,
cultivated.
I can tell you my second hero plant if you're ready.
Okay. Yep.
All right, it's Japanese shiso leaf.
Is that
Do,
purple with the little um outer
You're so
part?
smart. Yeah, it's got the
Ah,
serrated edges. There's
serrated edge.
green shiso and there's red shiso and there's purple and there's Korean. And so you just scatter the seeds and you get them for like $4. And then every summer you get a lush, beautiful green billiard table full of shiso. And you just pick big armfuls of it, you boil it up, and you get this brown liquid. And you can put sugar if you like, or honey, or whatever you do. And then the magic happens. You get lemon juice and you pour the lemon juice in and it goes crimson. It's beautiful ruby colored drink. And it tastes like cinnamon, cosmetic-y, perfumey, incomparable drink. And no one will touch Coca-Cola after it. Well, it's just so good. And you have all that without buying a bottle, without recycling a bottle. The less you recycle, the better your life is. And it's amazing. And then it comes back a year later.
Incredible. I
Shiso.
didn't know that.
Yes.
I've never made that drink with it. Do you eat the leaves as well?
You can. You can. You
Yeah.
can shred them and have them in salad. I often put them in soba salad. So I make buckwheat, cold buckwheat noodles, and I put shredded ginger and shiso and shiitake mushrooms simmered in soy and mirin for the meatiness. So vegans love this. I have a lot of vegan woofers, volunteers, and the happier I can make them, the better, because they just bless my life so much with their love and their devotion. And yeah, so they're really great in soba salad or any salad. But just to make them into a drink and to just plant, like, find a vacant lot and just fill it with shiso. And everyone thinks it's a weed and they leave it alone, including the pests.
Yeah.
It's good to plant foreign things because the pests are unfamiliar with it and they just don't know what to do. And they just say, oh, let's go hang out with what we already know how to devastate. We'll leave this alone.
I love it. So it's got the hardiness,
Mm.
can keep going. And
Yeah.
$4. I mean,
Yeah.
does it go to seed? Do you save seed to
You don't
replant, or
even
you
have to
farm it
save the
self-seed?
seed. They're so prolific. So they have these huge seed spikes and they just drop the seed and the seeds
Yeah,
are there next year.
I love it.
So you
That's what I'm
always
doing
have a shiso
now.
patch.
Shiso. We all need a shiso patch, and to make beautiful shiso uh, cordial, or
Yeah, we'll call it
is there a
cordial.
name for that drink
They call
in
it
Japan?
shiso juice in Japan, but it's not juice because
Yeah,
juice
okay.
is trouble. And the macrobiotics do not approve of juice, by the way.
Okay. So
Yeah.
go for the shiso cordial.
And there is, if you Google shiso drink, Australia's #1 food blogger came to my permaculture garden and she wrote an article with a recipe on shiso juice, shiso drink, and soba salad in honor of my
Ah,
shiso patch. Yeah, not quite Nigella. So if you Google shiso drink, you will find her article and it's really good.
I've come across Not So Nigella.
Yeah,
Great. All right, so we
she
can all
really
find the
is.
recipe out there and make it.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Well,
Mm,
shiso in the far north in Cairns, Coranda, Tablelands area where we are,
mm.
that grows in winter here. In
Oh,
summer,
wow.
it's too intense in summer for it to grow. Or unless you
Right.
maybe have a cooler microclimate up on the tablelands, but
Mm.
generally that becomes a winter crop for us. So yeah, but it
Thanks for
grows
translating.
abundantly on the land. Yeah, the difference between our large country and what's happening in Melbourne and Sydney, and it's a little bit reversed up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, thanks for the sweet potato and shiso recommendations. Have you, over your years, had an experience where you've used certain plants for your health and well-being to improve your health?
As like direct medicine, not really, because
Yeah,
I've never noticed that I'm sick because I've
great.
been having a close to nature food everything life for a very, very, very long time. I did a little promise to myself a while back. Every time I eat like toast or cake, I've got to eat the same amount of green stuff. Like just go to the fridge, grab a carrot, go to the garden, grab a handful, and just chomp on it. Like it has to be volume for volume. And that was to discourage me from eating too much naughty food. And that worked. So it doesn't matter what it is as long as it's alive. Um, but it's just so obvious that the more processed food, and bread is a processed food, I eat, the like immediately my health, um, my skin shows. I'll get sick 2 days after eating donuts. Like definitely, I'll get cold sores. Definitely. So the reason my skin's like it's actually really good now. I didn't think that in my late 50s I'd have such amazing skin, but it's because of my cold sores. Because if I ate sugar or bread, I'd get cold sores. And so I had to eat greens, like mostly pure food. Thanks, sickness. You're my
Thank
friend.
you. Yes, yes. Thank you for keeping me in line. I find that
Yes.
as well. Yeah,
Mm,
and eating such a healthy diet, when those foods come in, we're so, or in my experience, so sensitive to that you could have an outbreak or feel physically unwell. And I wonder, wow, other people can just eat this kind of food all of the time and they're not affected. But I think that what is someone's normal or status quo of how their body is, if you eat that all of the time, you get accustomed to it and maybe used to feeling unwell or not, prime and not having beautiful skin. So it's really important to bring it back to diet. And it's, I think, a reflection of a lot of conversations I have on this
mm,
episode is that permaculturalists really just keep coming back and talking about the diversity of eating diverse, fresh whole foods from the garden for health and well-being, as opposed to be in the position to need certain herbs to be dealing with illness, because
mm,
the lifestyle tends to bring a healthy garden and then a healthy diet.
mm. And now the whole population, due to podcasts and people like you, are getting all this really precious information that we didn't have before about how to get the basics right. Even things like breathing. We only recently learned that nitric oxide is a gas that is totally necessary for the health of our blood vessels. And well, Western medicine didn't know about it till 98. They got a Nobel Prize. But the yogis have always known, if you breathe through your nose, have a good mouth microbiome, you'll have what your microbes need to make the nitric oxide that your blood vessels need, and without which you will get sick and die an early death, or lose your lose your lose your lose your youth. Yeah, lose your get up and go. And like Western medicine didn't tell us, but the yogis did. We got to listen to them. The Ayurvedic people told us. I didn't know. And now I do. Thanks, podcasts.
Yes, I've been on an Ayurvedic journey over the last few years, and I just think, wow, this is a life science that has so many similarity. I just see all the principles of permaculture embedded in it, and yeah, breathing, all of the different and the yoga nidras and the different breathing techniques. It's thousands of years practiced, and yeah, why we're not learning these things at school
Yeah,
for
well,
health.
we didn't know the chemical reactions that happened, and now we do. And it seems Westerners listen to that. If we know what molecules are, that the molecules are doing their thing, making us healthy, there is some truth in it. So
Yeah.
instead of going to one special plant, I'm trying to get all those basic things right, so I don't need any special medicine, like you said.
Yes, love that.
Mm.
Prevention, being
Yeah.
being in a space of health. Yeah,
Mm.
always. Well, now I would really love to share with our listeners and expand into what is alive and thriving in your life right now.
So these days, my permaculture has taken me to a realm I was not expecting when I set out on my permaculture life 30 years ago. And I'm working with my sister, who is a yoga therapist. She's one of Australia's first yoga therapists. And she saw the workshops I was doing and saw how I was flailing with the technology and the being organized, and became my partner. And now she and I run workshops for helping people's body, mind, spirit by designing their house according to permaculture principles. So decluttering, harmonizing, setting up communication so that it happens without force or nagging, including nagging yourself, and getting in touch with the inner ecosystem. And it's really powerful. There's a line that's become popular from Dr. Dan Siegel, who said, how can we have mental health when no one agrees on what mental is and no one agrees on what health is? And he gathered all the mind experts, the physicists, the physiologists, the psychologists, and every week they'd meet and try and get a definition. And he got a definition that I now use of mind. And it's just one little phrase. And all 80 mind experts said, yep, I can work with that. I can agree with that. Now, do you want to hear this definition?
Please.
All right. So the mind, which we have so much trouble with, the mind is a embodied and relational process for organizing energy and information. So my mind lives at the moment in you, Tonielle. We're like jamming. I'm saying things I wouldn't have said without your ears being there. It lives in this room, this garden that's, made me sparky this morning. It lives in my body and the health I have from the sweet potato I ate this morning. And any good thing I do isn't because I'm so great. It's because of this ecosystem that's coalesced around me. And it's, in my case, it's very obvious because I've had all these woofers, volunteers. I've had volunteers working, helping make my dreams come true for 30 years, living in my house. I feed them, I give them a place to live, and they help me with my taxes, my workshops, and we both think we're getting the best deal. And so my sister and I are running workshops in how to create ecosystems of wholeness and wellness for people with ADHD. We run them for psychologists so that they're not sending a sensitive child back to a chaotic home with a mother that doesn't want chaos, but she doesn't know what to do. And I show the permaculture framework, make zones, use the edge, reduce useless diversity, increase useful diversity. And then these big picture, messy people know what to do. They know where the plate goes and they want to put it there. And they've got the dopamine loop happening because I make sure we design a reward into every action. So I'm doing those workshops. I've been running them as webinars for years, a few years now. So if you join my Eventbrite, you'll get told when the next webinar is. I'm transferring my blog to a Substack. It's starting in the spring. So that's a real treasure of stories that no one else tells because they don't get to ferry around the world like I do and do all these experiments. I've never married, not yet. I haven't had children, not yet. So I'm very free. And I do go and stay in my clients' houses while I'm decluttering, work in different cities and bring back treasures that I've learnt from the people that I've stayed with. And I share them in my blog, my webinars, and my workshops. So if you are a wellness practitioner, psychologist, physiotherapist, it would so be worth coming to Melbourne to join my sister and my in-person Use Your Body event coming up. And bring it back to your own communities. So I'm most concerned with teaching the teachers. When I go back to Japan, I find the person whose house I've decluttered has decluttered her neighbours' houses. And I go and stay with her neighbour and it spreads. And I want to be someone who plants little bits of culture that spread, because I'm not going to live forever, but I want this beautiful culture to I want to imagine that long after I've gone, there it is, making its shiso and its flowers and its beautiful share houses and its understanding conversations about the dishes forever.
That's such a wonderful and different offering that's ever come through these conversations here. And
Isn't it?
yeah, it's like the ripple effect, or it's like a template in a way. It's the message and the information continues on. And so at the moment, they can do your webinars still if they can't make it to Melbourne. Is
Yes.
that a possibility? Yep.
Yes. So if you sign up to my Eventbrite, you'll be told when the next one's on. They're 3 hours and there's a before and after photo and it changes your life forever. Because it's so sad to be given, here's how you do things, and you don't do it and you feel guilty and you feel more heartbroken. So I don't do that to people. I make sure that there's a result. And I love to do in-person workshops for culture change people. And I will be going to Cairns and doing a hands-on workshop. Yeah, it's on the way to Japan. And I got to stay at amazing Michael, I think his name is, his house, which is an opulent paradise. And if you have a community, I do a thing where I go to your house, we get 10 people, I teach them the Cecilia method, and then we declutter your house. And we have lunch. So you've got to be a good cook or have good cooks in your life. And your friends will pay a little bit. And that's one way, a low-cost way, to make paradise happen. And I have lots of
Oh,
stories of
that's
having done that. So
exciting.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really exciting. So it's a bit like a paid, very curated permablitz
Yep. For the house.
for inside your house. So we declutter people's kitchens or their garage, and it's a love fest, and like we all can't believe what's happened in just a few hours. It's usually a 2-day thing with 2 different groups, but there you go.
Okay. That sounds like so much fun.
It's so
I would
fun.
love to.
Permaculture is,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would
Mm.
love to host that. So let's stay in contact for when you come,
Yeah.
because I found out from the permaculture group, the Cairns permaculture group, that
Mm.
you had been here on your way to Japan on your last visit.
Yeah,
And I thought, oh, I missed the opportunity, but there's another one coming. So yeah,
for sure.
let's
Oh,
connect
we're going to have
here in
so much
person.
fun.
Hmm.
So let's all make it happen. So keep in contact with Permaculture Cairns and with Cecilia Macaulay.
Yeah. And the links below, so people can click after this conversation and they can
Yeah,
head on to the mailing list. Yeah.
the mailing list is really good, and all the stories are fun and treasures.
Wonderful.
Mm.
And do you have a book as well? Is there a book
So
coming
my
soon?
sister and I are creating our first book, which it's so hard to compress 30 years of more of just treasures into something that does permaculture justice. But the first book's called How to Create a Sacred Space Anywhere in Your Home, and it's an ecosystem design book, and it's about how you too can have the hammock of decision making and the starry sky yoga mat of connecting with your ancestors, and all the places that we need. And if you don't have a physical space, then the action that you want to do probably won't happen, and how to protect that space and make a great place for compassionate inquiry into all the possibly fighting forces inside yourself, and get them to fall in love with each other and have a better relationship to the people in your house and beyond. So that's our first
Um,
book.
Excellent.
And
And is there a time frame of when that's coming out, or we just stay tuned?
well, stay tuned. I'm sending out beta versions and asking people to give feedback, because permaculture designed to accept feedback. So the second draft's in its iteration, and it's just so beautiful, and I just want to keep making it beautiful, but it has to get sent to the world at some stage, probably early next year.
Wonderful.
Mm.
I really love that. The framework and explaining it through these principles are just so universal and easy to understand. It just when through my experience of teaching, we all have this aha moment as students because it makes so much sense, and we can see how we can apply them in our life. And with your conversation and wisdom sharing to help people create these spaces in their homes by aligning the elements in the right place, we can really tune in. And it always comes back to that our inner landscape, where permaculture really, for us to to do beautiful gardens and create abundance and harmony on the outside, we have a really good head start if we're working on our inner landscape as well and
Yes,
flourishing there, here,
that's
now.
right. And one of my favorite permaculture quotes is by Masanobu Fukuoka, the no, natural farming guy,
One
the
straw
purpose,
revolution.
the one straw revolution guy. And he said the purpose of natural farming is not the cultivation of food, crops, but the cultivation of the human spirit. And
Mm.
that's just so true. So that's why my first book is about how to cultivate our spirits, because that's the easiest way to then get everything right in your garden, your life, your family, and beyond.
Cecilia, is there anything else that you would like to share with listeners today?
There is, and it's something that is so fundamental to the work we do and that we can forget about. And it's cultivating, the most important thing to cultivate is a really happy, responsive nervous system. And after all these years of working and designing, I've realized that if once you get this right, everything else goes right by itself. And that's what permaculture is for. And this is central to the work I do with my sister. There's so many permaculturalists that are like out there doing, succeeding and growing and putting on workshops, and it's not benefiting their life. And I care about that. And they might be doing it from a place of compulsion and they'd never thought about it. And then there's others of us that are so talented, but our nervous system is just so, it doesn't let us get our gifts out. And my sister, my yoga therapist sister, introduced me years ago to the Ayurvedic idea of the three qualities that make up the universe. Tamas, which is about being in tamas, rajas, and sattva. And tamas is a state of nervous system being that's stagnant. It's dreamy, it's slow, and we need it. We need to dream at night, have time sitting around a campfire. But if you've got too much of it, it can be delusional, it can be frightened, it can be depressed. And then there's rajas, again, another element that makes up the universe. And this is about wanting to get out there and be ambitious and make it in the world and do stuff and achieve stuff and watch that video and make that business. Again, it's useful, but if that's running your life, you can miss the plot. And the third element that makes up the world is sattva, which is a state of quiet radiance. And when I do an action from sattva, quiet radiance, it doesn't cost me. I don't get depleted. But to get in that state, I need a lot of setting myself up well. I need to be eating good food. I need to have a support team around me that do the things that I'm not good at and that clap when I do the things that they're not good at, and they're so appreciative. So getting into quiet radiance is the key to a good permaculture practice and a good practice at whatever you're trying to do in the world. So that's what I'm trying to cultivate with my permaculture design, with designing people's houses so that their nervous system is quietly radiant. They're in action, but they're not driven. They're pulled into creating or connecting. And daily life for most of us in the West is like this clown show tumbling between rajas, in a rage of excitement, and have the coffee and have the energy, and then an energy crash. So you eat the donut and try to get out of your slump, and it's just cycling between these two diabolical forces, and it's not a good way to live. So our work as herbalists or permaculturalists or psychologists is to try and get that nervous system into that quiet radiance. The psychologists have this theory, vagal theory, where you can be in fight and flight, that's like rajas, out there doing things, but it exhausts you and it costs you. Your immune system turns off when you're doing fight and flight. Or you can possibly be depressed, which is they call it dorsal vagal hybrid response, where you're in tamas, you're not seeing the world clearly, you're unenergized. But the ultimate is what they call ventral vagal, these physiology psychologists, which is the tend and befriend nervous system state, where your face is connecting you to others, you're doing little tasks, you're peeling tomatoes together or whatever it is you do, and it's a really wonderful state from which to live a great life. So getting your nervous system in a quietly radiant state, that's my goal for myself and my world.
That is such a potent share. I almost feel like you're saying it to me for my own lessons right now. It's great. And thank you for that final tying it all together as to what your offerings are and how it leads to, I guess that's the yield people are obtaining through designing in the different ways that you're offering in our zone zero and our, I guess, inner zone 00, that internal landscape to find harmony and the Ayurvedic connection there. I certainly was that workshop
Mm.
facilitator in Rajas and permaculture business and all of these things. And
Mm.
it's so interesting you say that, because it was when I did that, started my Ayurvedic journey, was being introduced to these concepts and realizing that, having that awareness that I was running from that space, and to use the breathing techniques and the diet and things. Like, I have a beautiful garden, but driven
Mm.
and and burning out through too much doing and activity. Yeah.
Isn't Ayurveda eloquent? They said
Yeah.
all that in three little terms, and that
Yeah.
Western medicines, it's taken so long to discover, is central to well-being.
Yes. Ancient philosophy that has the universal truths, like we experience when we start embodying the permaculture principles.
I'm so glad you asked me to talk about that. Thank you so much for that opportunity.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it now with someone you know will benefit from this information. And remember, we're not just talking about change, we are cultivating it. Through these conversations and through the Elder Tree Patreon community, together we are sowing the seeds for an education centre and healing sanctuary. You can unlock access to our treasure trove of wisdom via our Patreon, so you can do that in the show notes below or from our website. Please subscribe now and leave us a review. It really helps the bots share our podcast with the world, and your support ensures that this podcast and our vision can thrive. To grow them is to know them is to use them is to love them, and then happily herbs become your way of life. May you be blessed with good health and many plants.